So I wanted to make this video because I saw this absolute gem of a listing description. I mean, wow. Who writes this stuff? So I just, it's something that I learned when I got into this that I was surprised by. But if you've seen that phrase "as is," or if you're selling your house and you are just, I mean, the temptation of using that phrase "as is" is a strong one. But I don't think it means what everybody thinks it means. So for the buyers that are avoiding homes completely, or, you know, kind of being reluctant to put in an offer because you see the phrase "as is," and those of you who are selling that think that this is some sort of a legally binding phrase to include in your listing description, let's just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. So in New Jersey, "as is" doesn't really mean a whole lot. If there are major defects, especially defects that were undisclosed, you're still liable for potentially legal action if those rear their head after the fact. So "as is" doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot. So if you're selling, just let me play devil's advocate. If I'm looking at a description of a home and I see "as is," maybe I'm just going to think, okay, I'm going to get that house as is. But maybe I'm going to sort of read that as, not only does this seller know that there are major issues with this house, but they're also showing me that they're going to be completely intractable when it comes to any sort of negotiation or anything like that. Like, is that really what you want to come across? And if you're buying and you see the phrase "as is," what exactly should that mean to you? Well, first and foremost, it does not mean that you're waiving any sort of inspections, or that you're waiving the right to ask for a concession for anything that might show up on the inspection. It's up to the seller ultimately whether they're going to grant you a concession or whether they're going to do the repairs themselves. But really, "as is" shouldn't mean a tremendous amount to you as a buyer, because if something comes up on the inspection, you absolutely should try to get it rectified. So recently I caught up with these guys from OnPoint Home Inspection. They're excellent, and we had to hire them to do an inspection for a property that we just closed on in Ortley Beach, New Jersey. Beautiful property. Listing description said "as is," right? So the buyer thought, well, that's pretty much it. What you see is what you get. No, that's not the case at all. We went through the inspection, and lo and behold, found a little bit of a surprise during the inspection. So the guys from OnPoint were nice enough to talk a little bit about the importance of inspections, even in as-is sales. Before we get to them, though, I want to go over a few things. So you're going to hear some words that you're probably going to hear a lot, especially in relation to as-is sales. Sort of in the listing description, it'll say, any repairs or inspections are limited to X, Y, and Z, right? So structural, mechanical, environmental. So structural is this, right? These are all the different structural elements of the home. Mechanical is this, but it's also this, and it's also this. So here we go. Listen to these guys from OnPoint. They are the pros. And if you're buying a house in that area of South Jersey, Central Jersey, whatever, it's down the shore to me. So whatever you want to call it, that's fine. But excellent guys, great to work with, very thorough.
Dan, so yeah, this is Frank from OnPoint Home Inspection. Typically, when it's as is, we're looking only for structural issues, mechanical issues, or life safety issues. Some of them are here, which is why we're doing an inspection and why it's important to do inspection even as is, because those three things are essential not only for yourself and buying the unit, but for getting you out of the contract if that's the case. So again, I mean, you always want to make sure that the life safety issues come up first, because in my mind, you don't want to die. Secondly, mechanicals, they can be bad even though they're newer. In this case, it's a 10-year-old unit, but it's right on the ocean, so obviously there's always some indication of corrosion from salt air, which is very prevalent here. And then as far as organics or environmental, we would not really advise to have anything done unless we see something. Luckily, in this case, we did not see anything, but if we did, then we would recommend going to the next level where you would have it tested for either mold or mildew, something that could be detrimental.
And yeah, speaking of unexpected things popping up, here's Bill tell you a little bit about what we found.
Is my hair okay?
It looks great.
So yeah, a lot of times people by the beach don't think that they need to get a termite inspection because termites don't live in the beach, but termites live everywhere except Alaska. So we did find live termites tunneling up the side foundation where a lot of beach sand had accumulated. It looks as though they had a previous treatment, but that was either worn down by the weather or the sand built up over the previous treatment, which allowed the termites to re-enter the home. So in this case, it was also good to get a termite inspection because you don't want to pay for the termite treatment or their damage once you own the property.
So yeah, basically don't be discouraged if you see as is in the listing description. Sellers really, consider putting that into your description, and just the whole idea is to try to sell the property. But yeah, if you see as is, don't be discouraged. Don't let that dissuade you from getting an inspection, which you really should never waive under any circumstances. And even, trying to talk to the sellers to come to an agreement about either a concession or a repair. So good luck.